Hey everyone, Tommy Durfler with Lighthouse Wealth Group here. I recently just sat down with a couple, and the gentleman was getting ready to retire in about 12 months. And we had just spent the last hour and a half going through their financial plan with a fine tooth comb, just making sure they were prepared in other aspects like their estate planning, the insurances, and looking at their taxes, of course, and their income. And at the end of the hour and a half meeting, the gentleman stopped me and said, "Hey, Tommy, is there anything else I need to be thinking about at this point before I retire?" And it kind of stumped me a little bit because I thought to myself, well, we just spent the last hour and a half going through everything, making sure you were prepared. And I realized that it wasn't so much these technical things that we were discussing. It was something else that, hey, there are really any blind spots that he's not seeing or that we're not talking about. And so I thought about it and I said, yeah, actually, there are a couple things. And the first thing I thought of is when you retire, typically your health insurance, your medical insurance changes. And if you're pre 65, you typically go and find an independent policy. If you're not using your company's policy, if they don't allow it, or you go on Medicare. And when those things happen, it can be a little unnerving just because a lot of people are used to their company's insurance plans for so long. And all of a sudden there's changes and they don't quite understand what's covered now, what's not covered, and all these small things. And so I said, hey, if you've been thinking about, or if you've been putting off certain surgeries that the doctor might be telling you, now's a good time to go ahead and do that on the company plan. And so company plans are great. They're typically cheaper because they're grouping everybody together typically. And you want to go ahead and do that. And then you're a lot more healthy going into retirement. There's not as many changes as regarding the health insurance. And so it just brings a little bit more of that stability to be able to say, hey, if there are any major surgeries or anything health wise I need to pay attention to or be able to act on, now's the time to do it while I'm still on my company plan. And so he really appreciated that. The other thing is, speaking of health insurance, is to really have that buttoned up. Again, once you retire, typically these things change. It's unnerving. You're not sure what to expect. And again, there's a lot of different choices you have to make. And all this is personalized based on your medical history, of course. And so just making sure you have a good plan, somebody that's going to help navigate that with you and those choices with you needs to be buttoned up as much as possible. The other thing is going ahead and testing out what you've laid out for your lifestyle in retirement. So, we always look at income right after retirement, but 12 months prior to that is a good time to test that and to see, hey, are we missing anything? The plan might look great, but a lot of times people tend to forget those little expenses that come up, whatever it may be, whether it's a different type of insurance that they have to pay once a year that they forgot about, or maybe it is, hobby or activity they do really want to enjoy that they want to make sure they're accounting for in retirement. And so, it's always easier for the 12 months prior to that point to really know and say, hey, let's stress test this a little bit. Let's see if this is really doable and see if we're missing anything before, we call it quits and there's just a little bit more pressure on that situation. And so that is a great time to go ahead and test that plan and see if it's a viable plan. So hopefully that helps. Feel free to check us out, www.lighthousewealthgroup.com. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.